Welcome to another episode of Where's Cullen? Probably should call it Where Cullen Isn't, because he's not in Hollywood, but I am. Hollywood Boulevard. It's a crazy place. I've done a walk and talk on here before, I'm pretty sure, but it was many years ago, and it's worth checking out. Hollywood Boulevard is nutso. It's a little bit, it's reminiscent of like Times Square. Times Square is probably the best New York analog in that, you know, it's commercial and there's tourists and everything, but it's also a pretty crappy neighborhood and potentially dangerous hoodlums and whatnot. Looks all right now. I've spent a lot of time here on Hollywood Boulevard, used to live not too far from here. But I want to talk some more about Cullen, about Where is Cullen. A lot of people saw the first episode and they were like, oh, you know, I didn't really fully address the whole, your engagement farming. Well, okay, so here's the deal. This is a counter social engineering campaign because I detected that there was a social engineering campaign aimed at me. What do we got up there? A cat in a tree? On a leash. Social engineering campaign aimed at me. I detected, coming from Cullen, fueled by diligent denizen. And people are like, why are you getting so angry, man? Just answer these questions about Cullen. And the reason I was getting angry was because I detected a social engineering campaign pointed at me. And it was intended to, I think, screw me up. It started like this. Diligent denizen said, John Cullen is missing. And I'm making some vaguely, I don't know if accusatory is the right word, but it had the whiff of social engineering. That John Cullen is missing and Jason is the last guy to speak to. Tell us what you know. And it's like, first of all, I'm under no obligation to tell anybody anything or do anything other than what I want to do. It's actually pretty dead here on Hollywood Boulevard tonight. It's odd. Usually there's a lot of activity. People going very fast on a bicycle. But I don't know how I could tell. I could just tell. It had the whiff of a social engineer. Like, who is this diligent denizen? Somebody told me his name was Steve or Chris. I don't even remember. I called him that and he was like, I'm not Steve. And I looked it up and he wasn't Steve. So I don't know where that came from. But the point is, he's another one of these pseudonymous people who is operating there not under his real name, you know, claiming to tell you the truth, but he won't even tell you the truth of who he is. Now, it's fine if people want to do that, but there are some questions about it. That's a cute dog. Because, for instance, when you start doing things, people know who I am. John, the pseudonymous individual known as John Cullen, he would even say that the reason he's not using his real name is, look at how many lawsuits you have, Jason. So he's basically acknowledging that there's a personal risk to being on the internet and being a journalist and exposing potential crimes and criminals. Now, other than the Emmys, none of these lawsuits have been too successful. Nina had a little bit of success, but this has all been lawfare and shenanigans. It's not like I've done anything that is worthy of being sued. It's mostly maniacs who are suing me. It's a very famous Musso and Frank Grill, oldest restaurant in Hollywood since 1919. And of course, motorcycle maniacs. Charles would not like that. Here you have RuPaul Drag Race Live. Did that change? It changed. So John acknowledges, you know, that there's potential civil and legal liability involved in doing all this, and he protects his identity because of that. So that is relevant to what I'm talking about tonight, because stuff that he did put potential civil liability on me. When he posted this tweet, whether this was performative or not, Viva Fry and Barnes said, oh, that's a threat. That could have been a setup too. The point is, they did have sufficient material that they could have put together a lawsuit and said Jason and his colleagues are threatening people on Twitter. They could have presented that to Twitter, X. They could have presented that in court. And it just seemed like that's the direction that was going in. But back to Diligent Denizen. He was like, oh, tell us this about Cullen, or people around him, maybe not specifically him. But again, that's how they do this kind of deflected, decentralized sort of operation. You have somebody like Diligent Denizen put out a tweet, and then completely anonymous accounts respond to that. Could be controlled by Diligent Denizen or somebody else. What's this? Netflix. Oh, this is the Egyptian Theater, and that's their gift store. Ah, this is where they had the 3D Film Festival, 3D Expo a long time ago. See, I really do have a certain amount of, most people will be like, oh, Hollywood Boulevard is disgusting. I have a lot of fond memories of time spent on Hollywood Boulevard. Back in the day, I interviewed Lenny Lipton and Ray Zone, two good friends of mine. Both have passed. Right down there. I wonder, can you still see that interview on the 21st Century 3D YouTube channel? Villainous scumbags have tried to destroy that channel. I mean, they take glee in destroying my work. Two icons of the 3D historic filmmakers. They're dead now. I interviewed them in 3D down there with a camera that I invented. But anyway, I digress. The point is, this was social engineering activity. Diligent Denizen introduces this idea, Cullen is missing. And people start saying, well, Jason knows about Cullen. Where is he? Tell us. Tell us, tell us, tell us. And I say, hey, look, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to answer people because they demand that I answer them. There's a lot of people even now saying, oh, Jason, you owe us, the Scientology bookshop. And a Scientology lady going inside. They don't like cameras, Scientology. Where is Patrick Reveron? He would like that. Oh my God. L. Ron Hubbard's Winter Wonderland. Are you kidding? Is this a public thing? Can you just walk in? Well, what does L. Ron Hubbard have to do with Christmas? Oh my God, they have Santa over there. Be careful with your kids and this L. Ron Hubbard Scientology Christmas. That is bizarre. Okay, whatever. I'm telling you, Hollywood Boulevard. It's a good walk and talk. Listen, if you enjoy the walks and talks, sponsor the show. Gasoline is expensive and it's dangerous out here with all these maniacs. Become a sponsor on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. You can also sponsor by following me on X at JG_CSTT and subscribing there. So Diligent Denizen, he puts out that tweet, Cullen is missing. Now, I didn't know exactly what was going on at that time. This was, I don't know, maybe a month. Maybe it was November, late October, and Cullen had been gone, hadn't posted anything since October 13th. And I knew that that was the day that he and I had this dust-up where I told him to delete his tweet, or the next step I take would be legal action against him, which would force me to reveal his identity. And what I meant by that was there would be a lawsuit issued against him, and he'd be named in the lawsuit, and everybody would see that. So he deleted the tweet. And then that's all I thought about it. I sent him an email or a text message saying, I think we shouldn't communicate any further at this point, and don't post anything about me, and there'll be no need for us to communicate. I didn't tell him to go away and go off of the internet. And even if I did, what right do I have to tell anybody to go away and go off the internet? He can post whatever he wants. He just can't post images of me linked to threats to other people and expect me to not take legal action. That's all I was telling him. It's a broad area of activity he could continue with on the internet and not do that. But whatever, he disappeared. So I just immediately said to Diligent Denizen, here's Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator Christmas. Nice. That's pretty cool. Do not touch. And Elvis and Spider-Man. I guess this is where the people come to buy their costumes to hawk money on Hollywood Boulevard. That's also very Times Square-ish of it, in that people will dress up as superheroes and try to get money. Oh, there's another Avatar movie out. Are people bored with that already? Anyway. I said, Diligent Denizen said, oh, Cullen is missing. And I just said, there's no evidence that he's missing. He just hasn't posted. And my presumption at that time was that he had voluntarily withdrawn from posting on social media. And the reason I presumed that was because that was what the evidence told me. It just seemed like a little too much of a coincidence that on the same day we had a big argument that he would, just suddenly disappear. Now look at this. Avatar Fire and Ash, Cash, Grass, or Ash is playing in Dolby Vision 3D. I do believe that's a laser. That's got nothing to do with Dolby Vision HDR, which is the format that Charlie Kirk's assassination was photographed in, 240 hertz. That guy's waiting for his Avatar ticket, I guess. Oh my God, that woman's wearing a mask inside the ticket box. There's nobody else in there but her. See, LA is a little crazy. Anyway, the evidence at that moment was just that Cullen had voluntarily withdrawn from posting anything on the internet. Not that he had disappeared. Because also, none of those people who said that he disappeared had any idea where he was in the first place. So where exactly did he disappear from? It didn't make sense. It felt very social engineering to me. And it got a tremendous amount of engagement. Like a lot. 50,000 views in a very short period of time. Here is, it used to be Mann's Chinese Theater. Now I think it's TCL Chinese Theater. Ah, Transformers. All kinds of Hollywood stuff around here. So it just reeked of social engineering was my issue with it. And people were pressing me to say things that I felt. I mean, look, I've been around this block a few times, this social engineering block, and I can tell they're trying to bait me into saying things that were going to be used against me. And so that's what I mean by counter social engineering. So at first I just thought, okay, this guy Diligent Denizen, he's trying to, here, Wonder Woman is selling slushies or boba tea or something. Maybe Wonder Woman is getting boba tea. First I just thought he was engagement farming off of Cullen. And I was pissed off because, look, I thought at least at one time Cullen and I were friends. And I also just don't like being on the ass end of all these social engineering fallouts that result in me losing friendships, losing business opportunities. I've stayed in this hotel. It's pretty old and weird. They have a bowling alley in there. Kind of a fun scene. I mean, again, I haven't been hanging around here in like 15 years. When did I move out of LA? 2013, so 13 years. Who knows how things have changed. But that's the Hollywood Roosevelt. So I could tell they were, you know, they were grifting, they were engagement farming. I'm pretty sure the American Society of Cinematography Clubhouse is, are we on Orange here? Where's Orange? I'm pretty sure it's down on Orange. There's going to be nothing going on there right now. Yeah, this is Orange right here. Let's walk over and check it out. People have probably, many people have probably never seen that. We'll look at it. So I just thought that they were, you know, trying to make some social media grist out of this battle between me and Cullen, and I objected to that, I don't know, on some level, but also that it felt aimed at me, trying to jam me up and get me into some kind of problem. And people were like, oh, tell us what you know, tell us what you know. And I didn't really know at that moment. I just, from the evidence that was available and from what I thought, it seemed to me that he just decided to stop posting. What, we got a singing predator here? It seemed like Predator was singing. Let's just take a picture with Predator. Oh wow, look at that Cadillac. Is that Elvis's Cadillac? So they were grifting, and I was kind of like resisting the grift. I got a little pissed off at that guy, Diligent Denizen. I don't know who he is, and remember, he has been directly linked with Blake Bednar's promotion of fake 4K 60 frame per second videos of the Dolby HDR video that we were just talking about with Avatar. So that's weird, you know. Is he connected in some way to Blake Bednar's? Because remember, Cullen brought me that video about the US Army ISR jet that had been made by Blake Bednar's. What's up with that? And, you know, Blake Bednar's, when I started talking about drones at the Charlie Kirk assassination, he started posting idiotic videos where he said he used ChatGPT to locate dots. And he said he would do a Zoom call with me to explain how he did that, but then he never did. Where the hell is the clubhouse? Then he never did. So that was very suspicious. And he also, you know, I first engaged with Blake Bednar's on the whole drone subject, where he said he saw a drone flying out of a vent. And I said, there's no way. That's not a drone, it's a bug. And that's not a vent. And it just seemed to me that Blake's whole goal was to call every single dot in the sky a drone. And I surmised that the purpose of that was to make my actual sightings of drones appear stupid. Oh, wow. The ASC Clubhouse is beautifully decorated for Christmas. I'm glad I came over here. No, wait a minute. This is the ASC Clubhouse. Which is? No, that is. That's Hollywood Plaza. This is it, I think. It's been a long time since I've been in here. But, yeah, so Diligent Denizen, he was on that X space with Blake where he's like, oh yeah, I got the original, because they were trying to say it was 60 frames per second, because remember, I was saying it was 240 frames per second. Here's somebody fancy going into the ASC Clubhouse. Probably a famous cinematographer. Maybe there's a Christmas party going on there tonight. I'm not invited today, but we'll just observe the building. Yeah, there's something going on. There's an event. Looks great. Beautiful. Enough of that. It's funny, right? I mean, we're just a few steps off of Hollywood Boulevard and we have these beautiful mansions. It's very weird. LA is strange in that way. But diligent denizen, now there he is pumping Cullen. So I was like, what the hell is going on here? Now, I hadn't spoken to Cullen, and obviously the last message I sent him was don't contact me anymore. So I just wasn't paying any attention to Cullen. Then a few people who I know aren't social engineers, reasonable people who have been watching Crowdsource the Truth for years, many of which are even sponsors on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. There's a Waymo. I see a lot of Waymos around. They also sponsor on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. But those people started sending me DMs on X. So in addition to sponsoring, they're following me at JG_CSTT. They started sending me messages like, hey, have you spoken to John? He hasn't posted anything in a couple of weeks. And I don't remember which came first, this or diligent denizen. But there became a moment where people started, saying, where the hell is Cullen? And I was ignoring the social engineers, but when it was actual Crowdsource the Truth viewers, I said, well, let me start paying a little bit of attention to this. And I saw he hadn't posted anything. He stopped posting literally like an hour after this text exchange that we had. So I felt pretty strongly that it was somehow associated with that, but it didn't make a lot of sense that why would he stop completely? Leave me alone is different than go away and don't post anything on the internet. I just said don't say anything about me. And so this is what I was really objecting to with the diligent denizen and the other comments being injected into his tweet, was that people were saying Jason threatened to sue him, Jason threatened to dox him. I should go back and look at those tweets. Jason threatened to dox him and so he went away. That's what it was. And they were starting to put together this narrative of, oh, John Cullen is such a hero and Jason is a heel because Jason made our hero John Cullen go away. See, and that's not true. So this is a social engineering tactic. This is like when Chris Martenson produces a whole video where he says, oh, Jason Goodman has been debunked, rather than watching my material, which he agreed to do for the debate that we did, kindly sponsored by Owen Schroyer. Remember that phone call where Martenson said, okay, yeah, I'll watch your stuff and then we'll have a debate. Well, if he had done that, he would have known that I said that the projectiles appear on screen in a confusing way because of Dolby Vision HDR, bidirectional motion prediction, and MPEG encoding. And I explained how those technologies could cause a fast-moving, high-contrast projectile visible in only 3 frames to potentially appear out of order. It's an artifact of the technology used to record that. I explained all that. Now, certainly, Chris Martenson or anyone is free to disagree with me. So I guess Avatar is playing here too. So it's IMAX here, and it's Dolby Vision HDR, Dolby Vision 3D over there. I seem to remember a day when they had competing movies playing at these theaters. That one over there is owned by Disney, El Capitan. But anyway, that's what they were doing. They were starting to put together this narrative that, Jason threatened to sue John Cullen, or Jason threatened to dox John Cullen, so John Cullen went away. And remember, Chris Martenson, this is what I'm trying to explain, enticing people to do things. So Chris Martenson, after the debate, which most people on Owen's channel said I destroyed him. He lost the debate. After that, he came and said, oh, now I've looked at Jason Goodman's material, and Jason presented the frames out of order. I never did that. I never presented them in any order. I just said, here are 3 images of a projectile in a still image. And anybody who had watched my videos about it up until then would know how I discovered it in that video that Zeb Boykin presented to, what is this, a Kylie Jenner vending machine? That video that Zeb Boykin presented to Owen. So I'm on the show, where viewers of that show would have seen the original video. People who are interested in Zeb Boykin and have seen him before would have seen him introduce me to the video. This is literally a shopping mall inside the place where they give the Academy Awards. See that up there, the Dolby Theater? Used to be the Kodak Theater, but Kodak is basically out of business. So now this is the Dolby Theater. And they tell you all the different things that have won. See that on the waterfront and everything? From Here to Eternity. Different years, the Best Picture, Oscars. So Martinson waited until after the debate to say, oh, I've debunked Jason. That's what he should have done during the debate, because then I would have been able to say, no, you misunderstand what I'm talking about, Chris. But instead he said, no, that's it. This is definitive. Nothing else can be said about it. Blocked me on Twitter. Refused to talk about it. Owen Schroyer agreed to allow a follow-up debate. Martinson wouldn't do it. And then Martin said, you now have to give the evidence bounty money to Blake Bednarz. So I called Blake, you know, to find out where to send the money and all that. See, here's our give me money, I'm wearing a costume section. I called Blake to verify his evidence. Here's another Christmas tree. Called up Blake to verify his evidence and speak to him about the whole thing. And then he said I was harassing him and gave out his phone number and people were calling his business. I never did that. I never harassed him. Martinson told me to call him, so I called him. But so this is what I felt they were trying to do with Diligent Denizen and Cullen is Missing. They were trying to entice me into a scenario that they were cooking up that I detected was meant to play out as Cullen is a hero and Jason is the villain in this scenario. And I'm still convinced that that's what's going on. So I did a video, a previous video, you know, where is Cullen, at that Hot Rod Auto show. And some people were like, oh, you're being a jerk, holding out. Tell us, where is Cullen? Well, I'm not actually going to say where he is. I know where he is. Or at least I know where he was. I mean, I don't know where he is, like, at this minute. But he's fine. And I've confirmed what I suspected, that he voluntarily withdrew from social media. I said this already, by the way. In that previous video, I said Cullen isn't dead, because the people who are sponsors of the show and reasonable, non-troll, non-social engineer people were saying, hey, I'm worried about John. Can you find out if he's all right? Oh, look, the dinosaur has its 3D glasses on. Ripley's Believe It or Not. Or maybe it's always wearing sunglasses and a surfboard. I can't remember. So, I mean, look, I don't particularly care about Cullen anymore. We were friends. He betrayed my trust. He did a lot of things. I'll do more episodes about where is Cullen, and we'll talk about the things that he did, because it was a digression. my loss of trust in Cullen, the pseudonymous individual who goes by John Cullen. It didn't just, bing. It wasn't like that. He did a series of things. People can also sponsor the show on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. But there are people who said, oh, we're worried. And I said, well, who knows? Maybe he and I had an argument. He got in his car, went out all upset, and had a car accident. That could happen. I did start to agree that it seemed a little strange that he wouldn't post anything for, what has it been, 2 months? A month and a half at the time, whatever it was. And so, I started to become concerned, or at least concerned for the people who were concerned. And by the way, all of these diligent denizen type Twitter responses were pushing me to sort of say, oh, Jason, you have some responsibility to the community as the only person with Cullen's phone number. You're the only one who talks to him. We all want to know what's going on with him. You have an obligation to do something. I have no obligation. And this person who said before, oh, you're engagement farming, you're being an asshole. There's a simple solution. You don't have to watch or listen to anything at all that I say. If you don't like it, you just don't watch. It's really simple. And by the way, if I am engagement farming, then don't watch. But that's my counter social engineering operation, because they are trying to engagement farm off of the destruction of me, trying to create this whole false story where Jason is the villain, Cullen is the hero. It smells good, that corn. This is excellent when you're super drunk and leaving the strip club. These guys have a 5D adventure. Forget about Dolby 3D, you have 5D here. Honestly, that looks like crap. Yeah, I do believe, I'm very confident that their master vision was to monetize the destruction of Jason. That's what they've been doing for 9 years. So this is jujitsu. This is counter social engineering, turning it back around on them, because the fact of the matter is the pseudonymous individual known to everybody as John Cullen is a fraud. He's a liar, morally bankrupt, and in other ways. And he's lied to me, he's lied to you. Not about everything. I'm not saying everything he's ever said is a lie. But I do not believe that he ever worked for Oracle. And so my question is, if someone is saying, hey, I'm an expert, I worked for Oracle, I'm the map's daddy, etc., whatever kind of crap he was saying, and he lays out these presumed credentials to get you to subscribe to his show, isn't that fraudulent inducement? What do we got here? This is some sort of food delivery robot? Is this your robot? What is it doing? Delivering? It's delivering Taco Bell? I don't know what that guy's doing, hanging out, smoking a cigarette, wearing a Rolex on Hollywood Boulevard. Doesn't seem like the best idea. So it starts to get way lousier down this end here until you hit like Katsuya and the W Hotel. But that's a question for the lawyers out there, you see, because I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the answer. Is it fraudulent inducement to lie to people to get them to subscribe to your show? Is that actionable? I don't know. See, George Webb lies and he says he's initiating a class action lawsuit on behalf of investors and volunteers for Turning Point USA. He has no ability to do that. He's not an attorney. He can't initiate a class action lawsuit. He could start a pro se lawsuit, but actually he can't because he's an idiot, and he's tried that many times and it hasn't worked. So again, their master plan, it seems to me, was to monetize the destruction of Jason Goodman, of my channel, of my X presence, my YouTube presence. They love doing that. That place, Maselli's, is such a terrible restaurant. I cannot recommend against it enough. I don't understand how it stays in business. They have singing waiters and terrible food. But that was their plan. Monetize the destruction of Jason. Tell people don't contribute money to the evidence bounty. The evidence bounty is closed. People can still send money on paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth if you want to, just to support Crowdsource the Truth. But now the evidence bounty is closed. Nobody was able to present a counter thesis. Nobody has been able to explain what those 3 frames are, if they aren't a projectile coming right at Charlie Kirk. And like I said, Chris Martenson, who I think is an idiot, he keeps proving himself wrong, saying that it couldn't have been the bullet fired from where the FBI says it was fired from. So that would seem to support what I'm saying, that the bullet is coming from somewhere else. But nobody was able to disprove my thesis. They did present a 30 frame per second video, but it was still shot at 240 hertz using the Dolby HDR. Go on to X, read my whole technical paper. It explains how Dolby HDR video in the iPhone 16 Pro works, and that's the phone that was used to record that video. Where the hell did I park? Yeah, no, Musso and Frank, we walked past that. And that's what they want to do. They want to destroy my ability to earn a living. They want to destroy my social media channels, and they want to monetize that. And John Cullen became a part of that. That was clear to me. He turned on me. I don't know if he always was, but I believe he went over to the dark side and was directly trying to destroy my credibility, destroy my Twitter channel, get me kicked off of Twitter. What is this robot doing? Is that your robot? It's a weird looking person. Anyway, Cullen's not in Hollywood, but I am. I enjoy Hollywood for all its filth and craziness. I mean, you know, not the evil part of it, but I mean, I hope people know what I mean. I enjoyed my time making movies. I like this stuff like the Walk of Fame, the crazy people, the sights. A lot of things out of business over here too. It's also like Times Square in that regard. But the counter-social engineering operation is, they are not going to destroy Crowdsource the Truth. They are not going to destroy me. I'm going to reveal the fraud that is John Cullen. I'm not going to dox him. I'm not going to be malicious. I'm just going to reveal to everyone what happened. And so, like I said, this person was like, oh, you're being an asshole holding out. It's like, well, then don't watch. For people who are worried about the pseudonymous individual's well-being, he's fine. He's healthy. He hasn't been kidnapped. He isn't dead. He isn't in the hospital. Everything is fine. And he personally confirmed to me that he chose to stop posting. Now, he told me the reason. I don't believe it. I think there's another reason. And I also don't think it's the last that we've seen of him. I think there's something cooking. That's why I'm doing this. And that's why I'm doing it in the way that I'm doing it. Because I have my reasons, and I don't need to explain them to anonymous, unknown individuals on the internet. They will become clear. And if anybody doesn't like the way I'm doing it, you don't have to watch. But if you do like it, and you appreciate the show, and you like the walks and talks, become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or you could go to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or you could follow me on X and subscribe at JG_CSTT. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for more information about where is